Lesson 107, we're going to continue solving for some equations of lines, and these will be parallel lines and then also lines where the slope has been given. Now, equations that are parallel and also when the slope is given, either way we know what the slope is because parallel lines have the same slope. And so what you're going to be doing is finding equations of a line if you've been given another line that's parallel to this line. For example, look at practice problem A. I want you to find an equation of a line that passes through that point, 2, 3, and those little symbols there, that means parallel, passes through the point 2, 3, and is parallel to that equation, y equals -1/3 x plus 7. Well, you just have to think, parallel lines, those have the same slope, so I already know what my slope is. And so these will be even easier than the problems in lesson 106, because in that lesson we had to calculate the slope, then the y-intercept. We already know what our slope is, so we just have to figure out the y-intercept. First though, when we're finding the equation of a line, we should always write down the standard form, y equals mx plus b. Now this line we're trying to find is parallel to y equals -1/3 x plus 7. So that means it also has a slope of -1/3 x. So we know what the slope is. All we need is the y-intercept. We find that by substituting that point in for x and y. Y is 3, x is 2, and so we have 3 equals -2/3 plus b. So b is equal to, if we added 2/3 to both sides, we'd end up with 3 and 2/3, and we can just write that as an improper fraction, 11/3. And so our new equation is y equals -1/3 x plus 11/3. So these parallel lines, they both have a slope of -1/3 x. One crosses through the y-axis at 11/3, the other at y equals 7. Let's do another one like that. Find a line that passes through that point right there, -1, 7, and is parallel to that equation, y equals 3x minus 2. So, first, when we're trying to find the equation of a line, write the standard form down, y equals mx plus b. This line that we're trying to find, it's parallel to the other one, so that means it has the same slope. So it is also y equals 3x. And then put the plus b on the end. To figure out this line's y-intercept, use those points that you have there, substitute those in, and solve for the y-intercept. So 7 is what y equals, is equal to 3 times a -1, so that would just be -3 plus b. Add 3 to both sides, 10 equals b, and so the new equation is y equals 3x plus 10. So this line that's parallel to the other one, it will pass through the y-axis at 10. The other one passes through at -2. Now you'll also be seeing some problems like this where you've been given a slope and a point for that line. And it's the same thing as b pretty much. You put the slope in that they gave you, then you find your y-intercept. So I want you to find the equation of a line that passes through that point there, 4, 4, and it has that slope, -1/5. So we write our standard form down first. That helps us think about what to do. We know what our slope is. It's -1/5. So this is a lot easier than the problems in lesson 106 where we had to calculate the slope and the y-intercept. Here we've been given the slope. So we just say -1/5 x plus b. And make sure that the problem is easier for you. Don't try to make it more difficult than it needs to be. Those ones in lesson 106, we had to find the slope. Here they've given us a slope, so we are doing one less step to solve the problem. You substitute that in, then substitute the point in, 4, 4. So x and y are both 4. That's a good problem because we can't get x and y backwards by accident. So we say 4 is equal to -1/5 x, or -4/5 plus b. And then we'd have 4 plus 4/5 or 4 4/5, is equal to b, and we can write that as an improper fraction, so that would be 24 over 5. And then in our equation, we'll have y equals negative 1/5 times x plus 24 over 5. And there's our equation for the line. We were given the slope, we needed to find what b was, and then once we get both of those, we substitute them into the standard form and get our equation for the line. So something else to think about here, lesson 106, we learned that we could find an equation of a line if we were given 2 points. You can also find the equation of a line if you're just given 1 point that the line passes through plus its slope. So either of those 2 ways are ways to figure out the equation for a line. Okay, well that's all for lesson 107.